know, but I mean, is it film or just talk?
Oh, yeah, it's a CD, it's only sound. If it was a DVD, then you would have video.
Okay, a couple other things now.
Thank you.
Pitch for Meherana. We have this lovely form, and you can join to become an associate member. It means that your support is what we encourage. It helps us retain our nonprofit status. Your membership, your $20 annually, also helps us pay our property taxes and insurance and our utilities. So if you haven't already become an associate member for this year, our fiscal year starts April 1st, so we're just starting the year. So come on in, I'll have some forms. And one last thing is, you all that have been up in the meadow have seen our beautiful meadow cottage. It's available. You can come and visit there. You can come on individual retreat. We actually don't charge for it. It's 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, great room, kitchen. It's a great facility. We provide bedding and sheets and towels, so it's just great. You bring your own food. And so it's just easy. You just email visits@meherana.org and you can come and stay. And a lot of people have taken advantage of that, so spread the word and come. We'd love to have you come. Thank you, Ron.
If people are feeling like they'd like to volunteer too, after dinner would be a good time to come over to help clear the way, and Michaeline can use the help with that. She's the person in charge, so I don't see, is Michaeline here? Oh, there she is. So there's Michaeline. Any meal, beforehand, after, if you'd like to help out, that would be great. And also at the end of the event, if you're still here on Monday, it's a tremendous amount of work. We could definitely use the help. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note here to be prepared for rain tonight.
Okay.
The cold front is moving in. It's going to get down to 40 degrees. And so just be prepared for rain.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, now, right before Irwin has his talk, there are going to be these, we're calling them workshops, but they're not necessarily workshops. So at 1:30, there's going to be 2 different things happening. One is that Elizabeth Talbot is going to lead a, quote, workshop in leaving a legacy, your Baba legacy, and who you might want to consider donating it to, and how to do that, and why to do that, and she'll get into the whole thing. That'll be at 1:30. I'm thinking in this room. And then there's going to be another workshop at the same time that you can pick and choose. And Max, do you know where you want to have this? Maybe over there by the the check-in table, or somewhere over there might be convenient. But maybe meet here, and Max, stand up, Max. Tell them what what it is.
It's a surprise. No, it's. I love hearing people's Baba stories, and a few times here and elsewhere, I've just hosted. We'll share our Baba stories. I think somebody quoted Erich once and had a workshop called "So How Did You Come to Baba?" So it'll be just that over there if you're interested. Thank you.
And then at 3:30, I think it's at 3:30. There's going to be a new workshop called Story Slam, and
3:15.
oh, I'm sorry, 3:15. That'll be in this room as well. And Maybao, who is not here right now, will be here to facilitate that. And what it is it gives everyone an opportunity to participate. Well, as many as we can fit into the time frame. But if you have a 5-minute or less personal anecdote focus in some way with your relationship with Baba, we would love to hear it. And so you can offer it up during this particular time. So be thinking about your story, what you'd like to offer up, and that'll happen at 3:15. And now we've got Irwin, who's ready and willing to share what he's got.
When I went to see Mayor Baba, this was in 1960, in May, I went not because I just wanted to meet Mayor Baba as a person. I went because I wanted him to show me God. That's all I was interested in. The book, Listen Humanity, is what I had read previously before going there. And Baba was saying in here, in that book, something very important. At least to me it was very important. And that was that when he explained who he is, he said, I am the highest of the high, I am the ancient one, I am God the beyond, and God in human form. Those who come to me, and then he was talking about how what we should expect from him, and what he expects from us, in that incredible message that he gave, which was called the highest of the high. And he said that if a person comes to him, they shouldn't be coming because they want family, money, you know, the standard things that desires that people have. He would say, I'm not for that. I am for those select few who want God. And God alone, because that's what I've come to give. God and God alone. Well, this was the highlight of his mission, to have us individually, as we approach him, for the one thing that he came for, which includes everything. If you have God, you're going to be everywhere, in everything. You are everything. We can't even imagine what a state of consciousness that is, that Baba is having, and what he's experiencing, and what he wants to share with us. So, when I read this, I said, he says he's the highest of the high. I never met the highest of the high. I want to go meet the highest of the high, and I want him to show me God. And that was it. It wasn't just go and visit him, to just be hanging around where Baba's physical presence is. Not at all. It was the consciousness, the experience that he came, the meaning of his mission. So, in some way, one may say, he came to give God. And I came to get God. So the two of us should meet. We should get together. I came to receive it, he came to give it, we should get together. We're made for each other. So I knew I had to go there. Now, in the course of time, I should say a little more about that. So when I saw Baba, and he was there, he was so loving and so friendly. I mean, he was really such a sweet person, just to be around as a person. Even though his mission is very great, because nobody can do what an avatar can do. But as a person, he was just so loving, and he embraced me and kissed me, and he had me sit with him and travel with him. Wherever he went in the car, he would want me to be close to him, and he would say, remember now to stay close to me wherever I am. So there was one incident in which we were all walking together with Baba at Guru Prasad in that area. And there must have been 100 people that were walking with him. And Baba was in the front, and we could walk behind him. And I was walking next to him. And Baba had said that he wants me to stay very close, and he meant physically close as well. So as we're walking along, actually everybody, there were others that wanted to be close to him too, to walk close with him. So they would get between me and Baba, and they would be also walking, and Baba would stop. And when he stopped walking, everybody stopped. All 100 people stopped. They would all stop. And Baba would just reach over, and he would pull me over to be next to him, because if anyone else had gotten between us. And then we would start to walk again, and everybody, all 100 people would walk, and he'd continue walking. And again, the same thing would happen, you know, somebody would want to get closer to Baba, so they'd get in between us. And again, Baba would stop. And he would stop, and every 100 people stopped, everybody stops. And he'd reach over and he'd pull me close. And this happened three times before we got to the entrance of Guru Prasad, where he was to go in. Well, there was a film that was actually done by somebody that actually shot that. So later on, I was able to see, hey, there it is, you know. It actually could be seen on that film. Baba wanting me to be close didn't mean just physically close. You can well imagine. He meant you stay close to me, what I am, who I am. What you don't go wandering off. And which reminds me, because Baba was very clear about us not going to other masters. He said, once you come to me, you stick with me. Nobody's going to do any more for you than what I am. And if you think that you want to go visit some other master or go somewhere else, just keep in mind that they can only bring you up to their own point at best, even if you were to be accepted with them. But if you want that experience of God, then that's what I'm here for. And you stick with me. You don't go wandering off. And he even sent a cable, a telegram. It's in my book too. I wrote all those things in there. That under no circumstance to contact any spiritual teacher or master, Easterner or Westerner. And then later a letter came and he said, and this holds good for all my lovers, that they should stick with me once they've accepted me. Now for the rest of humanity, it's fine. Go, go wherever you want. Visit this one, that one, the other one. No problems. Baba wasn't restricting anyone. He didn't even restrict the people that he said to stick close to him. I mean, if you wanted to go off, there was nobody going to say you can't. But for your own benefit and for your own advancement, better to stick with the one who's going to actually end up wiping out your sanskaras that prevent you from experiencing God. Because why don't we experience it now? We have all these impressions from our evolution, from our from lifetimes, many lifetimes of mental impressions that block the view of what your true self is. And unless that's eliminated, you can't never experience what your reality is, what your real self is, which is in everything, everywhere. I mean, Baba explained that the bliss of that experience of your own existence is infinite. You know what infinite means? No limit. It's like a bottomless well. There's no limit to the happiness of your experience. But we only experience, as Baba explained, the seventh shadow of that divine infinite experience that he has and what he wants us to have. So, seventh shadow, what? A shadow into a shadow into a shadow into a shadow, 7 times down. And that's the gross happiness of a human being. We can't imagine, what he even means by infinite. Infinite bliss, infinite knowledge of everything as it really is. Infinite power, that all things are possible. There's nothing can stand in the way. It's all just like imaginary. It's like a dream. You have a dream. This is how I was able to understand it. In a dream, you're everybody and everything. Because you created the imagination. It's your dream. If God is having the illusion or the imagination of the universe and all that it contains, we can only understand it by our own limited dream, that we become everything. You can become the sky, you can become the table, you can become the people. You're making it all up. It's who you are. It's what you are. You're making it up. So when a person achieves the God realization state, they see the self that creates all of this. In a way, it's simple, but in another way, it's beyond our imagination. You can't imagine what that would be like. But just the same, Baba was always there to help us through each step of the way and to wipe out these sanskaras that block our view. Baba doesn't give you anything. He removes what blocks your view of your true self, of your infinite self. This is what he does. Perfect masters are one with the infinite, with the true self. And so they can remove the sanskaras of others, what blocks your view. Anyhow, I'm going to tell you a story, because I traveled around and filmed the people all over the world that had these incredibly great stories of the things that Baba said and did with them personally. I wanted to get first-hand accounts, not a story that somebody else tells a story, goes down the line. No, I wanted them to tell their own tale, and I filmed it. And this is what happened over a period of some years. I went all over, everywhere, and doing that with a team of people that came with me to help me with it, with those projects. Now, we were in Pakistan, and there was this lady, and she was just a matronly lady, you know, she was doing the dishes. And her son is there, and we were there in our house with her. And the son says, you know, you may like to hear what the story is that happened with my mother. And I said, yeah, sure, we're here for that. And he says, well, Baba in those days liked to come and visit the house. And when he came to our house, he liked to go over to the refrigerator and just take anything that he liked. Just like any family member would do. You know, you go to the refrigerator. And when Baba came, he would like to sleep in this room here, but he didn't want to sleep on the bed. He liked to sleep on a cot, just a mat on the floor. And that's the way he liked. And so we were very happy that Baba should come and do this. And Baba became so pleased with my mother, he said, that what he did is he said to her, ask me anything and I will grant it. How about that? Who can grant anything that you say? You know, I mean, you better be God, because I don't know anybody else that could do such a thing. So but he was very simple, and ask me whatever you want. And this woman, she doesn't ask for comfortable life or to be a queen, or, I mean, she could have asked for anything, you see, or for her kids to or do well, or, you know, the standard things that people ask. No, this woman asked something quite different. I want to know how you run your universe. So, Baba said, you know, he said, fine, it'll be great. From that night on, Baba would take her out of her body and take her and show her different aspects of how he runs the universe. And he would show her the different planes of consciousness and what the people on those levels experience, and the angelic planes. And he would show her the realms and who was in charge of the different realms in his universe and how it would operate. and the past and present and future. He would take her all throughout his creation. I mean, it was really amazing. And this went on for 2 years like that. Every night, go see something else. Well, after a couple of years, she said, Baba, because now he came to visit the house again, you know, he would visit. You've shown me everything. You showed me how you run your universe. But there's still something you didn't show me. Baba said, tell me. He said, you haven't shown me yourself. Your real self. And from that day on, Baba didn't take her anywhere else, didn't do anything, no going anywhere. Just everything remained now as it was. So I thought about this here. Here now, Baba stopped, completely stopped. There was nothing else to show. He was not going to take her out anywhere. And I'm thinking about it. And I said, you know something? And I think I mentioned it to them at the time because they didn't know why Baba would just stop like that. And I said, I think now you had come to the point of wanting to know the real thing, the reality, where all of this springs from. Not this here cosmic universe, but the self from which it all springs from. And when you came to that point and you were satisfied with him showing you everything that was not himself, you see, then you came to the point of wanting to know the true self that creates all of this. And for that, now you're here and you're under his wing, and gradually he'll have to take you to that point where you can actually experience this. And this is where we all are. We're all at the same point. Now, you may not have had Baba show you the universe, but at least you get to hear about it. And this is what he did for her. It's amazing. He granted her. Because it turned out that there was something about this woman that so pleased Baba that he just wanted to give her whatever she asked. You know. And had she asked for God realization, it might have been a step better. But, you know, take what happened. That's the way it happened. Now, there are so many things here. There was something here that I was going to read to you. And this is a very good, to give an understanding. It's called Dark Eyes. It's a poem. In 2010, I said at the beginning of the year, and I was telling Judy, I said, you know, I think I can write some poems now. I didn't write poems for years. The only poems I wrote were the ones that were to Meher Baba himself during the 10 years that we were communicating. But so many years went by. So in 2010, all of a sudden I thought, oh, you know, I think I can write a poem. And I would give her the title of a poem, and then I would write this thing, and it just flowed. You know, I didn't even have to think about it much. It just would flow out. Well, that's the best way to write, you know. You don't have writer's block that way. So, you know. But at the end of the year, I said, that's enough now. I've written enough. I put the pen down. That was the end of that. And I had written altogether 150 poems, which I put in 3 books, 50 in a book. And this is the poem that I wanted to read to you now. It's called Dark Eyes. And all my poems, of course, reveal things that Baba has revealed to me, you know, from my understanding of things. What is, now, this pertains, of course, to Baba, and all these things are real. This really happened. What is behind those dark brown eyes? What do they see that I cannot? The making of my mind, the thoughts of all beings, be they of the underworld or the bliss of heaven, or just the life of men and the many creatures of your world. Those are the eyes of the mind and heart. So much love behind that penetrating gaze. What do they see that I do not? Someday, I am told, my eyes will see the truth. So much love in this world, it's a shame to miss it. Someday will certainly come, but first destiny will need to play its hand. I will need to see what is not real. Now you are looking at me, and this is when Baba was looking. Now you are looking at me with those dark brown eyes, filled with love and light. What will I see when you let me look through them? This all came about because when I was sitting with Baba, there must have been around 200 people in the room at the time. This was back in, I think, 1961. And we were all sitting around Baba in the morning. And Baba turned to me and he said, "What are you thinking?" So it happened that I'm thinking about what I had read somewhere, that a saint, someone of the fourth or fifth planes, will never look directly into your eyes, because it would disturb, the energy that comes from them would disturb your mental balance, and so they avoid looking directly into the eyes of anyone. So I didn't know that, but anyhow, that's what I read. So as I'm thinking this, Baba is asking me what I'm thinking. So I told him, I said, "Baba, I'm thinking that I'd like to look into your eyes." In the meantime, Baba was not looking directly at me either. He would look like this or that. You know, you can see a person without having to look directly at them. You can just sort of skim around them. And that's what he was doing. So then he asked my brother the same thing, and my brother said something. And Baba said, "These are both very good thoughts," but he was not looking directly at me either. So I thought, oh, let it be. So I started to look down, and then when I looked back up, he's looking straight into me, eyes to eyes. And that's when I saw that Baba had brown eyes. And that was it. So I thought about this later, and then later as I'm thinking about it, I said, oh, wait a minute, something did happen. When I was looking down, and then I looked up at Baba, and he was looking directly into my eyes, there was like a certain part of me that didn't look up. I realized there's a certain aspect of me that didn't really look up. Physically, I looked up, yes. But then there was something about me that did not. And I felt that, something, Baba shielded me, he veiled me, so that there should not be any disturbance other than just to answer him and for him to look at me that way. So that was my impression, Take it or leave it, that's the way I thought about it later. And I think there's something to that. But this whole thing about looking and seeing how Baba sees things, that was really what was the important thing. And that's what this poem was about, you see. It contains that idea that what would it be like to look through his eyes and see what he sees. All right. Yes?
Did you ask Baba what the difference was between his I can't think of
his consciousness and ours?
Yeah.
Interesting.
asked you
There was a man that did ask Baba. No, actually, there was a woman that asked Baba, was it different? Very different. But he's experienced when he saw things, and we as human beings, in using our five senses, experience what we do. And Baba just answered one word. Very. Very different. Well, you know, Baba made himself very human at the same time as he had that divine consciousness. But he made himself very human, and even when he was asked, there was a man that asked Baba, are you human? You know, because hearing about all the incredible divine aspects of God, yes, are you human? And Baba said, I'm more human than you. Look, if you create all beings, which include human beings, you're one of them. You are what they are because you created that. That's what you made. You in your unlimited imagination. So these were little things, you know, that really touched people's hearts and made them understand that he was really one of us. Not only beyond us, but one of us. And that's how you could relate to him. My experience was that I always felt Baba had my best interest at heart. There was not any such thing that you could tell him anything and he would condemn you for it. No, he would maybe advise you something, but it was always your best interest that he had in his heart. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate. Yeah.
You know, I've known you for over 30 years, and my experience of you is that some aspects of Baba have rubbed on you. One is Baba's immense sense of humor, and the other one is his patience. Could you tell us about that? Those aspects of Baba.
Well, yes. Well, first of all, when I was present with Baba, he didn't hesitate many times to say, I am not this body. Don't mix me up with the body. And he would tell us that his suffering is such that if any human being were to have to suffer even a fraction, just a bare fraction, they wouldn't be able to live. They'd drop their body, they'd die immediately because it would be too much. So then he said, so how, you know, I'm sort of paraphrasing, of course, but how do you suppose that I endure that? It's because of my infinite sense of humor and my infinite bliss. My bliss is infinite, so I can endure any amount of suffering. And the suffering is only, from Baba's point of view, why does he have to suffer at all? But, you know, is to lift the load from humanity, so he comes not just to give enlightenment to the few that are ready for it, but also to help humanity progress in their evolution of consciousness. So he suffers because he has to remove a lot of the difficulties that human beings experience, and so he has to experience that. So how he does that, but he has the background of this bliss, you see. Infinite bliss, such a happiness you can't imagine. But that keeps him able to endure any amount of pain or suffering, physically, mentally, spiritually, because in the non-dual state of his consciousness, there is no such thing as that anyhow. It's all illusion. So, you know, Baba makes these grandiose statements. It's all illusion. So I'm thinking to myself, how does it all be illusion for me? You know, I mean, I'm here. How am I going to make this here different than what I'm experiencing? And the answers always are within a person. You know, you can ask questions, but the answers are also there for you. And I came to understand, and I think Baba began to show me, that in the non-dual state of consciousness that he abides in, it is the same non-duality that we experience when we go to sleep. When you're unconscious, there's no opposites. There's nothing there. You know, non-dual. There's no duality. It's the only time we experience a non-dual state, personally. Now, what Baba is saying, you got to experience that with full consciousness. It shouldn't be unconscious. It should be full because the non-dual state is in you. You have that non-duality. That's what you are. And out of that non-duality comes the illusion, the imagination, that there is duality, that there is all of the creation of everything. And that creation of everything, like we look at this huge cosmos, you know, scientists will tell you how vast it is. It's a mere speck in the total existence of God. It's a tiny little speck, that whole universe that you're involved with. Now, when we think of our planet, and we think this is our planet's got to be taken care of more. Wait a minute. In the cosmos, the vastness of the cosmos as it's pictured through telescopes and such, this world is again a little speck in that. A little tiny speck. You couldn't even find it hardly if you were at a certain distance away. And the galaxy, which has billions of suns and stars and planets revolving around, is also a mere speck in the cosmos, where you have billions of galaxies like that. You can't even, I mean, it gets to be so vast and so much, and the mathematics is so great, you can't even picture such a thing. And this whole business, this whole universe, is but a mere speck in the existence of God, and it only exists as an imagination, as an illusion. Now, you want to know what God experiences? There's a good ballpark for you to begin to think about it. What God does experience. And yet, we are very capable of having that experience, because that is truly the self that creates all that we have to become conscious of and understand. Once you have that, then everything is clear. There's no fog, no mental fog, confusion, problems. It can't exist. But so when I went to Baba and I said, I want to experience God, I want you to show me God. Show me God. I never experienced God. I want to see God. You know, you hardly know what you're asking. You hardly know what you're asking. But at least I went to the right one that could actually do that. Someone else will say, oh, well, good. I hope that you get there. You know, I hope someone, God bless you. They have no power to do anything for you. But no, I went to the one that had the ability to actually make that happen. And that's why I went to it. Are we okay for time?
Not until you're God realized.
Okay. All right. Again, if anyone has any questions or anything, just let me know.
I have one today.
Yeah?
but it has to do with last night.
Okay.
When you came back from India, what happened with your father?
Same question over here.
On that particular trip, I was in India, and I was there with Bob. It was almost 2 weeks. I was there for the full 2 weeks, but I didn't know how long Baba would keep me there or how long I could stay. I was very happy to be able to stay more than the hour that was originally told me. But I think Baba liked me, so he kept me around. And my dad, in the meantime, wrote to Baba saying that he didn't know how long I would be being stayed there and what happened to me. He hadn't heard from me because my mind was so occupied just focusing on Baba. I wasn't thinking of anybody else or anything. So Baba said to me that I should write to my dad. I should write to him, send him a telegram. But as I said, I was so really absorbed, I should just say so absorbed with being there with Baba that I was not that functional. I was not a functional person. And Baba asked me the next day, he asked me, did you write to your father? And I said, no, I hadn't done that. And then Baba said, well, then do that. And again, they went by, and the next day, Baba asked me again, did you write? And I said, no, I'm sorry, Baba, I didn't write. And then Baba called Francis Bravazon and he said, help him write this here. Because I was so dysfunctional at the time. I mean, I knew everything that was going on. It wasn't like dense where I couldn't tell anything. No, everything. And I did want to do what Baba said, but just the way I was. And that's what happened. So now I write, and then when I came back from India, I just joined my father in his business for a while because he was in real estate, and you know, so I went home. Nothing really happened because he saw me off at the airport. You see, in spite of the fact that he was so against it and called the cops on us, and he did everything that he could to stop us, at the same time, when it came down to it, and now he was in New York and I was there as well, then he agreed, if I go, he would let one of us go. He didn't want Edward to go. And Edward said that he would just come later, so that I should go. So I went, you know, and that was what happened. So I came back to be with him. Now, the year after that was another story.
Oh.
It's a different story. Now, again, he didn't want me to go, you see, to India. I got a letter from Mani. Did I tell about this yesterday? No. I got a letter from Mani, who would write these family letters every so often to say what Baba's doing, if he had any instructions for his lovers, you know, just what is happening with Baba and whether he's going to come and visit the States or whatever there was going to be. And she says in the letter that for 6 months he's going to go into seclusion. Again, this happened a second time. So that, but he's inviting his lovers that they could come to Silhadas because he's stepping out of the seclusion for a short period. And that during that time that he comes out of seclusion, he will be allowing people to come to see him for the 2 weeks that he'd be out. And you could come and see him for any one day for 1 hour during that 2 weeks. So anybody could come and see Baba, but it would only be for 1 hour of any one day during the 2 week period. see. Well, and I said, we gotta go, we wanna go. I mean, it's such a limited time now. Now remember, the first time he said I can come for an hour, but this is now the second time, that he's telling everybody this. So, I decide that I have to go, but there were stipulations. You see, Baba had stipulations. If it interfered with family harmony, you shouldn't come. If it interfered with your finances, you shouldn't come. If it interfered with your job, you shouldn't come. Now, consider my situation. I'm working for my father in his business. That was my job that I was doing. The money I had in the bank, but he likes to keep control of everything. So, all right, that was that. And I wouldn't have, it wasn't so much that he could control it, but I wouldn't have any money left. You see, if I went on this trip, that would be the end of my finances. And the third thing was, if it interfered with family harmony. Well, my father was definitely not wanting me to go anywhere. See, my mother was a sweetheart. See, I hardly mention my mom. She was such a sweetheart. If it makes you happy, you do it. See, you do whatever makes you happy. That's the kind of woman she was. Well, I was saying to Edward, I said, Ed, because first we had to talk about this here, whether we can even... And when do I get this letter? It comes at the middle of the second week that Baba's already holding this meeting, where you could come. It was the middle of the second week. We didn't even know if there was enough time even to get there for the last day. That was what happened.
Wow.
So we're talking about it. I said, well, I have to see, what about this here thing about the job? So my brother says, yeah, what are you going to do about that? Baba says, you have to do it. You're not going to disobey him, if it interferes with your job. I said, well, what's my job? What's my job on earth? My job on earth is to know God and fulfill the purpose of my being here. This is my job. So we got rid of that stuff. Then there was the second thing was if it interfered with your finances. Well, if we used our money, then that would be the end of our finances, so we have to interfere with anything, there'd be nothing left. And then the third thing was family harmony. How do you get around that? Edward made it very simple. He said there is no family harmony. So I just, now it was the question of whether we could even get there. If we just, now that we were able to manage to rationalize our way through all of this, whether we could even get there for the last day, because it takes time to go. And we went to a travel agent. And we told him, look, we got to be there by this day. You can't be there later. Is it possible? He said, well, if everything goes perfectly well, and there's no hitch of any kind, then you could possibly make it, but there's no guarantee. So this is the way he said. So now we had to presume this, well, are we going to take the chance, and we decided we're going to take the chance. But I still had to do something. I had to approach my dad in a way to find out whether he would try to stop us again. Because like he called the police the time before, what is he going to do this time, if anything? So we're having dinner, the family is having dinner, and I said, Dad, I would like to get your advice. And he says, oh. Good, that's good. I said, what advice would you like? I said, you know, I want to know how you would feel if I wanted to go someday to see Mayor Baba again and travel to go to see him. And he says, I'm glad you're asking my advice. I advise absolutely not. Don't you do this. I said, well, you know, I just wanted to know how you would feel about it. Would you try to stop us like you did last time? He said, of course I would try to stop you. I would stop you. I said, what would you do? He said, I would commit you to a mental hospital. I'd get you committed. I said, why would you do a thing like that? He said, because you would be out of your right mind. You wouldn't be thinking straight. You're going to go and all the way to see this man who says he's God, and you're going to spend all this money for the airlines and all like that. You couldn't be in your right mind. So I said, I see. Now, there's a little backstory to this, why he would think like that. And the reason he was thinking that way is because he had a bakery store in New York when I was a little kid. And there was a man, Father Divine, some of you may have heard about him or not, who claimed to be God. And he would dress in ermine coats, and he would have Duesenberg cars for his family, and they would wear these beautiful suits. And he would take the money from his church, and people would donate the money, and he'd have big boxes full of money. And when my father would come to deliver whatever bakery goods that he ordered, he would take money out of it and pay for it, like that, from the boxes. And my father had absolutely no respect for it, because this man was living such a high lifestyle and taking money from these people that were most of them so poor in this area, giving them the idea that he's divine, and he was called Father Divine. With this in mind, now he has two sons that are going to go to India to see God. What is he going to think? What can he possibly think? How can they be so deluded, that they're going to go? This whole thing was like unbelievable to him. So I said to him, I would tell my father this was not at the same time, but when he would question that, I said, look, Dad, there are people that have no advancement, that are pretentious, they use spirituality or religion for their personal gain and for their ego to be built up because so many people are revering them. But amongst all of the people that are not like that they're false pretenders of spirituality to their own use and gain, there are also the real ones. And you never want to miss a real one from someone who is not. You don't have the chance for that. You want to make sure that you don't mistake a real one to be a false one. And when, now this didn't really register very much with him in the beginning, but then as the years went by, and now I'm skipping over time, and he had to, I told him, I said, you should read what Mayor Baba says, you see the lifestyle and the life that he lives, and this will tell you what kind of master he is, whether he's real or not. That's how you know. So I said, do that. So he didn't want to do that for some time. Yeah, he didn't want to do that. Well, even though he didn't want to do that, it was still necessary. And in the course of time, before he died, which he lived to 94, he told me, when I asked him, I said, what do you think of Mayor Baba? He said, now I am one of you. This is the way he answered. But that took like 40 years. What happened in between that time are many stories. Many stories. Huh?
You should plug your book.
Plug my book?
Yeah, they're great books.
Well, those who have read it find so many miraculous things in it. What?
Finish the story, like, did you get to go for that 1 hour on the last day?
Oh, yeah. So to finish that story, yeah. So we took the chance. And this time, in order to avoid my father stopping us, because he was very determined to stop us, I didn't tell him anything. I just went to the bank, took out what money I needed for the trip, because I was the one that was in charge of the company at the time. And
I'm sorry, but what was the trip where Harry Kenmore?
well, that's a different trip. Yeah, that was another trip. And a trip in both senses of the word. But anyhow, that was what happened. And then we just flew out like that. Okay, so we fly out, and my father had asked that weekend, I told him, I said, look, I gotta go visit some friends. So he didn't expect us back for a couple of days, so it gave me time to get to India. And as it turned out, we arrived just as, I think it was Meherji had come with the car to take the few people that had actually been able to come. Because don't forget those restrictions, if it interferes with your job, if it interferes with family harmony, it was for everybody, it wasn't just for us. So many people thought, well, we can't go, this is Baba's order. So they didn't go. And there was only, say, 5 or maybe 7 people out of the entire West that went. 7. About that. That was it. That had actually gone, of which two of them were me and my brother. Now, when I got there, Baba came into this room. It was a big room, 200 people could sit in the room. And Baba was sitting at the end. I couldn't see Baba from where I was because there was others in front. But you could just feel that atmosphere. Baba's atmosphere was so strong. You could feel the presence that Baba was there. And then as my turn came, and Baba was greeting each one, embracing each one separately, I was able to step up to Baba, and he embraced me, and I kissed him on his cheek. And then he had me and Edward sit next to him. It was Edward's first trip. This time Edward was able to go. And as we're sitting there, Baba turns and he just offhandedly asks, how did you come? And I started to tell him how we were able to earn money and this and that, whatever it was. And Baba didn't say anything, and he just continued. And I realized, boy, did I make a mistake. The year before, I told Baba that it was his will. This time, I'm telling him how I did it. Baba just ignored what I said. Nothing was said. But I realized I made a mistake. And now, there was no opportunity to correct it either, because other things were happening at the moment. But then, we didn't know for sure if we even did the right thing, because, we presumed all this rationality that of the orders that Baba had given so as not to go. And we couldn't be 100% sure about that until Baba called us to both be up and stand, me on one side of him, and him and my brother Edward on the other side of him. And we stood there, and Baba began to tell everybody what a difficult thing it was for us to come to see him. How we had so many obstacles and hurdles to overcome to get there. And Baba went on with this for about 5 or 10 minutes, you know, and he just kept saying, and how happy he was and how proud he was that we were able to come through all of those obstacles. And then he said, such love must be rewarded. He kept saying over and over, such love must be rewarded. There's a picture, and so then somebody jumps up from the crowd of people around, jumps up and flashes a picture and it sits right back down. You know, just like, and I have a photo of that in the book here, where I could show you what that picture is that he took at that particular moment. Here it is. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Like a picture. Yeah. Her book is called Irwin and the Avatar. So someone says to me, you put your name first. This is the copy of the book. I said, it's because I wrote the book. Had Baba written the book, and it would be. But if you look at the picture on the front cover, you'll see this is Baba, and this fellow sitting down on the floor below Baba. That's the me. That's him. So you get the idea that he's the big one and I'm the little one. And then it says over here, Mayor Baba and Irwin Luck, 1960. So there's his name first.
And what about the experience where you had, how'd you say that? Where you had both kinds of experiences? What
What you-
I said. You said you want to hear it too. Oh, the one with Harry Kenmore. He
Well,
said,
that was a year later.
Yeah.
That she's referring to the East-West gathering when Baba held that gathering, and how I was able to manage to go, me and my brother, to that gathering. But that I want to save for the next time because there was really some amazing things that happened at that time, both in the world and with Mayor Baba. Jai Baba. I'm being told if anyone has any questions, have a little time left. If not, then we've completed the What'd you say? Yes, yes. Yes. Well, I was never that religious to begin with. But just the same, it was interesting because my father would write to Baba. And he said to Baba in one letter, he said, Yom Kippur is coming up, is the highest Jewish holiday. If you don't go to service on that day, then forget it. You can't even call yourself a Jew anymore. This is the highest holiday. It's a day of repentance and a day of fasting for all sins that you may have done over the year.
Irwin, isn't it called the Day of Atonement?
Well, it's a day of atonement, yeah. So you atone for your sins. Well, my father writes to Baba that Irwin doesn't want to go to services. But my father says, and I know that you a good person, that you respect all religions and so forth. And he says, you should tell him that he should go to the services. Well, back comes a letter from Baba. And it says, and the letter was really written by Adi, but what Baba had said. And Baba is saying in there that when a person comes to find God, it is beyond religion. And it's not incumbent upon me to go to services, although Baba has no objection if I did or not. So Baba then gives me an order, an instruction. He says, I want you to repeat the Master's prayer and the prayer of repentance each day. And when my father reads, oh, he's going to repeat the prayer of repentance, because this is what Yom Kippur is all about, it's a day of repentance and atonement. Well, that seemed to satisfy him. He was very satisfied with this here. You know, whether I went or not, say the prayer of repentance, you see. And now I had to do it every day instead of just once a year.
Thanks, Dad.
Irwin, the ghazal you read yesterday from Baba, he's great. The ghazal that you read yesterday.
The ghazal, Baba's
From
ghazal.
From
What
Baba.
Baba had written, or
Yeah. that was-
because I had written also a poem called Babajan. Which are you referring to?
The one that Baba wrote
The Baba
for
wrote,
Baba
okay.
John. I'm sure it came from Naushirwan translation from Urdu back in 1981. What I wanted to tell you 2 months ago for the Iranian Parsi New Year for Nowruz, I opened that book of Ghazal that Naushirwan had loaned me because and this poem came. And I read it and I was just mesmerized, you know, and I wrote to Yeshua, oh, how do I wish that I could translate this in Persian. This was March 9th. 12 days later was Nowruz. I woke up and something said, go for it. And I translated that ghazal into Persian ghazal in the style of Hafiz. And it was just, I wasn't writing. It was just, so we have that ghazal in Persian now.
It's such a beautiful
Yeah, very
ghazal. It should be
strange.
translated into every language. I don't know what the story is as to who did what to make this poem, where I could read it to everybody what Baba was.
Baba did it all, he staged
Yeah.
it, you know.
So, you know, it's very beautiful in English, and no doubt it should be done in all languages. Baba lovers will really appreciate it. Was everyone here yesterday when that was read? Just who was here? Okay, so most people.
Some were not.
So, well, I can read it, you know, we can conclude our morning with Baba's poem. Okay, let me see. Here it is.
You know, I just said, oh, how I wish to translate it like Hafiz. And 9 days later it came. You want it, you asked for it.
That would be good. These two. This is Meherana, as he was called then, composed the following ghazal dedicated to Baba John, the perfect master that gave him God realization. Oh, beloved master, I am eternally grateful to you. If I had 100,000 lives, I would sacrifice every one of them at your feet. You drowned me in the eternal ocean of oneness and transformed me into an ocean like yourself. In the twinkling of an eye, you made a lover into God, and God I have become. O Emperor of Masters, O Ocean of Mercy, O Perfection personified, Sadguru, if your merciful glance falls on anyone, a beggar turns into a king. Gods, goddesses, angels, celestial beings, and men are all awed by the brilliance of your divinity. O enlightened master of the three worlds, even if I were to transform my body into the sandals of your feet, it would be nothing in comparison with what you have done for Meherana. Meherana.